my university in Pernambuco, also for your time. And I would like to start saying that it is really a pleasure to be talking about Latin American integration in a period of the world, history of the world, that is so complicated. So this is the talk. It's not a technical one, but I hope I can encourage you to think alongside myself on things such as the revolution we are living in, okay, such as the role of AI and CI, and also how this too relates to Latin America. Well, I think it's fair for me to, on my first slide, tell the place where I come from. I come from Recife. My affiliation is the University of Pernambuco, which means that in Recife we have to fly perhaps a few hours to leave the country. So in terms of integration would not be the best spot. However, we are in a strategic position because we are probably one of the closest points to Europe, to Africa, and perhaps within a very fair distribution regarding other capitals of Brazil. Our research group deals with computational intelligence. These are some pictures of Recife and also some of our beaches, which always are a problem because the students don't want to go to work. But surprisingly enough, we have been working on this research group for 12 years now. We are 8 researchers, principal investigators, and probably we are around 100 alumni already, and perhaps over 500 publications. And the main research areas are hyperheuristics optimization, computational semiotics, social simulation, network science, decision support, and various engineering applications. So as I told you, we are going to talk about Latin America and also CI. So I divided my presentation into 2 halves. The first one, I will try to address some of the problems that we have to face, otherwise sometimes we are not going to deliver, and perhaps some ideas or suggestions, if you may, of some things that we are doing that could help in this integration and perhaps to produce results that are interesting. So it's really difficult for a researcher not to talk about science, but as a researcher I have to have this position also of talking about impacts of science. So these are 2 difficulties for me because this is not my piece of cake. And also, yesterday, Alvaro served me with a 31% alcohol beverage. So my brain is kind of with an echo inside. But I'll try my best. So, as I said, this is not a scientific lecture. And we are going to offer some experiments we are currently doing in bridging the classroom and the workplace, not forgetting in research. And of course, as always in my talks, I would like to tell or to reveal that AI is not rocket science as may some think. Of course you know that because you work on this. So, as an observation, and a very sad one, I think Latin America is not delivering its full potential. This is my opinion. And I also think that, as well as Africa, these 2 regions of the world can deliver lots of good things. However, we have to reconcile with our history and perhaps change somehow some small/big problems. This is something that I would like to upfront show you. I think that on the bright side, we on the bright side, science and technology, okay, are not necessarily incorporated within our practices, within our societies. Of course, science and technology's advances, they are there. We academics are aware of them, but somehow we did not succeed yet in the broad speaking, so to say, for the society to incorporate it. On the bright side as well, I think Latinity is a plus. I don't think it's something detrimental, but we have to perhaps to know how to use it. This is my punchline here, I suppose. And the problem is that if we put or change from science alienation to science appropriation, that would be a game changer. That would be pivotal in our societies. This is one of my hypotheses. So, of course, we have to use some tools, and obviously the one I'm advocating here is to use artificial intelligence in that fight against lots of things that we are going to discuss. So what? The quest should be, as I propose, how could AI, CI, artificial intelligence, computational intelligence, be a game changer in LA, Latin America? Of course, what are the possible gaps for that big change? Who could be possible partners, and what could happen in such favorable scenarios? So, of course, I'm not a sociologist, but I have been in this business for over 20 years now, so I will give you offer you my perspective. I might be completely wrong. So, first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about the LACCI, this very same conference we are. The idea started with BRICS CCI in 2013. So Carmelo and myself, we organized that event, and we managed to put 500 people in our city with top scientists to discuss computational intelligence. It was a big challenge, and I think we managed to do that well. But just after that, we carry on discussing what would be the possibilities, and we came up with some conclusions. I will come to them in a minute. Then in 2014, in Bariloche, we organized the first LACCI. Then in Curitiba last year, the second, okay? Regarding BRICS, I still think it's a good idea, but partners are simply too far away, and the cultures are too apart. This is my particular impression. Although we had BRICS second edition in China last year, and we are willing to do it again every 2 years. Perhaps next time in South Africa, I have to convince some of my friends. You know, friends give this nice gifts to others. But anyway, as well as BRICS, I think LACCI is a very good idea of regional integration. So regarding BRICS, CCI, for those who did not attend, BRICS is the bloc of 5 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Together we have almost 40 million square kilometers, okay, of territory. 2.9 billion of people, so perhaps half of population of Earth. And these are numbers from 2013, almost $11.2 trillion. This is almost the US, okay? Almost Europe. So it's not a small group of countries. So therefore, talking about science among these countries would be a good idea. Should it not be that the cultures are so apart and the countries are so apart? So then we took the plunge, Carmel and myself, with other colleagues from Russia, from China, Professor Yi Tan, from India, and from South Africa, Chile, Zimbabwe. So we managed to have Here you do have 15 of the speakers, but we have 25 international speakers. Okay, I think it was one of the first time we managed to have so many big shots in the area in the same event. It was very nice. For those of you who did not attend, okay, we had 45 universities involved, 90 organizers, 500 participants, 14 plenary talks, 20 technical sessions, 5 collocated workshops, roundtable, etc. So it's a, technically speaking, I can say without a shadow of doubt that it was a big success. The problem is it was very cumbersome to organize, very difficult. So Carmel and myself keep trying to work on that. So some pictures of bricks. This last one is very interesting. Cesare, we managed to organize a trial for AI. So Professor Felicity from Florida was the judge, and then we had prosecutors. Kumar was one of them, okay, and then it was a very interesting discussion about what were the benefits of AI in general, if it pays off, etc. The result was that AI is not guilty, okay, so it pays off to invest. It was very interesting, the discussion. Lots of nice guys there. Ching Yao was there, etc. And then we had prizes, everything as it should be, okay? So then we had robots. This is my dearest daughter, shaking hands with the robot. Well, but it did not catch up so much as I thought. Perhaps we should do better now. But then, Carmel and myself, we discussed about how about integrating Latin America. And then we flew to Argentina, talked to the president of the IEEE there, and then she introduced us to Christian Rivero, who could not come here. And then within 6 months, we organized that, okay, the first one. I think Marley was there. It was a nice one. We started with 8 countries in this network. Okay, so Pablo was there, etc. Small event, 100 participants, 40 submissions, 4 speakers. But then we carry on, and then last year we organized that in Curitiba, still with 8 countries. Okay, then the organizer was Heitor from Brazil. Okay, I think it was quite nice. Then the number of participation increased, number of submissions as well, and it was co-located with other events. But then we have 2016. I will talk a little bit later. But this is the background of what I would like to tell you. So what's going around now? 30 years ago, perhaps this guy had a very big impact on me when I read his book, The Third Wave. Okay, this book was published in 1980, okay, and he was advocating that the information age had arrived. Okay, he had other books as well, and he was completely right. Okay, none of you, okay, could deny that computers have changed our society. And I'm very sad to, when I was preparing this presentation, to learn that Professor Toffler died a few months ago. He wrote very interesting books: Future Shock, Power Shift, Revolutionary Wealth. And it's for those of you who are war books, so you probably should read his last books, because there he was advocating that the period of struggle, social struggle, would be setting in now, in the beginning of the 21st century. It's really a sad confirmation of his hypothesis. Okay? But then, let's talk a lot about other aspects as well in this context. So we had our history. For those who are not Latins or not Americans, our history is not sometimes very good, very nice. So lots of exploitation and all that. And we have to reconcile this. We have to really came up to the age of a global player, okay? And of course, the problem is that it's difficult when social injustice is still very high in our continent. So plenty of lack of planning as well, okay? In terms of geopolitics, currently everybody is reading the news. It's very cumbersome and increasingly worrying. Okay, so we have to cater for that because these are facts. So, but as well, we do have this ICT boom still happening. Okay, incredibly fast, empowering technologies, and obviously potentially very inclusive, which is very important for Latin America, a place in which there are lots of exclusion. And then comes to our ground that we have these marvelous tools that are flexible, innovative, and somehow unknown. This is another point I would like to highlight. So AI and CI in many countries of this continent is not completely incorporated in the community that develops systems, for example, which is very sad. But then comes a game changer, okay? A very disruptive set of technologies like Internet of Things, big data, cloud computing, deep learning, okay? I rather go for the European way of describing that as Industry 4.0. And then Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the Davos Summit, is highlighting the importance of that for society, but not as another disruptive technology. In his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, he is advocating that this is another wave, like Alvin Toffler said before. So this gentleman is talking about something that is so big that will dwarf the information age. This is what he's saying right now. Okay, so it is striking to know, for those of you, that the 2016 Davos conference clearly subscribed that theory, the importance of AI as the main driver of the next human revolution. This is the conclusion of Davos 2016. And it's not difficult to understand because of the money that is being poured, I mean the brains that are being hired by the companies, etc. So AI is not only another technology, would be the really driving force of the process. And I would add that AI will require a positive attitude from organizations which would like to master this new wave. Because the point is, if we keep alienated, okay, we will, in Latin America, we will miss that train. So I would like really to highlight that. So this is Klaus Schwab. Luckily, he's still alive. I hope that he carries on doing nice stuff. And this is his book. It's a small one, so you could read this very shortly. It was published this year. So, to sum up this background, I would say that those are from McKinsey, 16 disruptive, 12 potentially economically disruptive technology. Okay, mobile internet, automation, Internet of Things, cloud technology, advanced robotics, autonomous vehicles, genomics, next generation, energy storage, 3D printing, advanced materials, advanced oil and gas exploration, exploitation, recovery, renewable energy. So big things, but those are directly dependent on AI. The others are just not so dependent, but still. So it means that we researchers in this area, we are within a very interesting ground for doing research. But then, let's get back to Latin America. There are lots of prejudices, and we have to bust those, okay? But even in AI, there are lots of prejudices, at least in our continent, okay? So I identified threefold misconception to be covered. The first one is about AI itself, the second about Americas and Latin America, and Latin Americans. So those are three aspects that I will very briefly comment upon. This is a problem for me because people simply do not know the potentials of AI yet, okay? So it does not mean this stuff. So people normally, when we talk about AI, they come up with these ideas, obviously completely wrong. Another thing is that AI seems to be unattainable, complicated, expensive, high-tech, unnecessary, etc., etc. So those are real problems because when you go and talk to people in industry, sometimes they came up with these ideas. Obviously, we are changing very quickly, and this is good. The dictionaries also have very, I would say, imprecise decisions of what could be artificial intelligence, a very human-centered one. So I rather go, this is what the definition I'm using since 2004 when I started the first course on AI in my university. So it has to do with adaptation, of course. And Hollywood does not help as well, because then you have these movies picturing AI as bad, like Tron, like Star Trek, like The Matrix, like Terminator. And then the biggest villain of all, which is HAL. Okay? So, as a matter of, I took the burden to go and see that HAL is the first non-human villain on the top charts of villains. Okay? It's quite interesting, huh? So our mission number one, in my opinion, would be to raise awareness of AI. Regarding Americas and Latin America, for those of you of this country, of this region and countries, I would like to say that there are lots of misconceptions. For example, there are 3 Americas, okay? So people tend to think about just North America, but there are 3 of them. Regarding Latin America, we are 22 countries, if you do not count the Caribbean ones, or the ones that do not speak Latin languages. So, these sticks, besides the flags, are the ones that are already in the network of LA CCI. And the one highlighted here is Ecuador, that is the newcomer. Okay, so Ecuador is the 9th country in our network. Well, another thing is that Latin America is not small. I mean, even graphs, for example, the Mercator projection, okay, diminish the size of our countries. This is incredible, isn't it? So, can you see Greenland on top? Then when we move this above the US, then you see the actual size. And when you move towards Brazil, it might be a couple of states in our country, okay? So perhaps we should move to another fairer map. So this is a award winner representation of, I will use this map from now on, okay? In which the area is preserved. Well, there are very many unknowns. So for those of you from outside, so 22 countries, this area, 14% of the landmass, Earth's landmass, almost 600 million now, so this is 8%, so it's a good relation between area and people. So 27 inhabitants per square kilometers. several languages, because this is another myth that everybody in Latin America speaks Spanish, so several languages. Is the most urbanized region of the world. I don't think this is necessarily very good, but this is something interesting. 80% live in big cities. Perhaps this is a problem. The GDP of Latin America is almost $10 trillion, which is a better part of the US economy. So 20 million Latins and Caribbean people live outside their country of birth. Amazon sprawls across 8 countries, so Amazon is not only for this is for the Brazilians. Amazon is not only within Brazil, and 17 times the British Islands, just for you to have an idea of how big this is. The region boasts 20% of world's oxygen, 40,000 plant species, etc. Lots of big, impressive numbers. And your breakfast, for example, may be more Brazilian than you realize. So Brazil is the world's biggest producers of coffee, sugar, and orange juice. So probably you are with us every day. Not alone, okay, because we introduced chocolate, potatoes, and other small things in the European breakfast and other meals. Well, but I think what I would like to really say here is that we should think as a powerful group of people, and we tend not to work in cooperation. And the message here is not we against the others, but we acting as a global player, okay? An important one, like Africa, with their 50 over countries. Well, and we do have not very nice things. For example, the top 10 universities now, for example, Colombia managed to have Universidad Nacional de Colombia, so number 10, and then Universidad de Brasilia, number 9, number 8, Universidad de los Andes, Colombia again. You should be very proud of that because there are very many universities running for that. So, Tecnológico de Monterrey, so number 7. Number 6, Universidad de Chile. Number 5, Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro. Number 4, Universidade Nacional Autónoma de México, UNAM. Number 3, Pontifícia Universidade Católica de Chile. Number 2, Universidade Estadual de Campinas, Unicamp. And number 1, Universidade de São Paulo. So, those are the top 10, for those who did not know. So, only 4 countries have the top 10. And I would like to say that Brazil has 4, Chile 2, and then Colombia 2, and Mexico 2. I could stop here, but then I took the burden to look the last year rank, in which Argentina had 3. Now they do not. And I think that some policies contributed to that. Of course, I'm not a specialist in Argentina, but perhaps Brazil will not have 4 next year. Go and find why. Well, for those of you who would like to go in detail, I would like to highlight that we do have 433 universities doing research in the region. This is not a small number. We tend to forget that. What are the villains then for this kind of problems? Because the idea is that we do have lots of resources, natural resources, human resources, but why we are not delivering? First of all, the biggest villain is corruption. Second, education and skill development is very poor. And third, increasing inequality. So, if we manage to do that, that would be a paradise on earth. This is my opinion. The sources are always underneath. You can go and check the facts. So regarding corruption, this map really is very scary, okay? It tells how corrupt is your country. So I'm not very happy with mine, for example. So later on you can realize what are the reasons. But of course this is not good news. Second villain, bad education. So when you compare Latin America to East Asia or to OECD, which is a block of many countries, okay, you can see why we are not delivering in this region. Okay? So it's very detrimental. We are really sleeping behind, especially in the initial levels. And I understand that we have Cubans here. So Cuba has very nice educational indicators. Okay? So it's not a matter of size of the economy. It's how you spend your money. Of course, I don't want to stay so long here. I would like just to tell you perhaps why we are not delivering. So another villain, inequalities. So if you have the Gini coefficient, which is in light green, and the per capita income, you can see that they are highly uncorrelated, highly inversely correlated. So when you have this high Gini coefficient, means that probably you have an unfair distribution of the wealth in your country. This is World Bank information. This is another perspective from this time CIA World Factbook. So darker here is bad. So it struck me when I saw Brazil darker than most of the other neighbors. So Mali, we have to do something about that. So mission number 2, that would be LACCI could help to transform, okay, our region in a hub for AICI. And I'm very glad that we do have members of the board of the World Society, CIS, to see that this is our goal. But there are lots to do. And then Latin Americans as a problem. Yes, I think we are a bit of the problem. Okay? There are lots of prejudices. Okay? If I were in Germany, I would not play this video, but as we are Latins and we are flexible, I will play this one. Okay? So this is from Huffington Post. It talks about the prejudices. I hope you listen. Hold on. Let me set the volume. Okay.
Should be okay. Should be fine.
Here. There we are. It's not coming.
Yeah.
Okay, just a second. It's okay. Are you listening? Yes. Latino Lover. So perhaps it will be better.
Fernando, put the microphone.
Discover me. Is that an earthquake? No, it's Ramon. Is that an earthquake? No, it's Ramon.
We must dance to the great god of Oct. And if you do it right, then you get your brick.
Okay, then you remember, as soon as you land, watch out for malaria. Why? I got a shot for that.
Can we hurry this up?
I'm talking about your cousin malaria. She's coming to pick you up, but she might have rubella. What? That's It's her daughter, but make room in the car because she could have diphtheria. Who's diphtheria? Imani, diphtheria is a disease. That's why I want you to be apart from her in the car.
Lucy, what did you say to Carol?
Nothing that should upset her. I just said that little Stevie was scrawny and little and looked like a monkey.
Oh, that all?
Yeah.
What do you say that for? What do you say that for? What do you have to go over there for? Why don't you stay here when you belong? What are you trying to do to me?
My father's from Puerto Rico. My mother's from El Salvador. Neither one of those is Mexico.
Well then I guess the big mystery is who gathered all those remarkably different cultures together and taught them all how to park their cars on their lawns.
How come you're not being baptized? I don't know why you always have to be judging me. Because I only believe in science.
You feel angry a lot of the time?
So now you're gonna try and psychologize me? You gonna try and figure me out? I'll help you. I come from a broken home and we're poor, okay?
Okay, Mendoza, this is Diaz. Papa, shut up here.
Espérate un momento, déjame terminar esto. I don't speak Spanish. Great, another fucking coconut.
That's my father, my mama, my brother Juan, my other brother Juan, Juan Jr., my sister Juanita, my grandma Juangelina.
Well, it's not very flattering, but some of them we might improve a little bit. So, mission number 3 would be to catapult LA researchers on the field of AI and get rid of some of these problems. But now I move on to some ideas and obviously things that we are doing. And then I would like to recap the quest we posed in the beginning. So how could AI-CI be a game changer in LA? Okay? What are the possible gaps, possible partners? And then I picked up these as transform that into causes, opportunities, help, and results. And I would like to develop this theory now, in which we could work on those and perhaps change a little bit the situation. So the hypothesis number 1 is that teaching is not exciting and challenging. Okay, so this is a possible cause. So let's flip classes. Let's remove this barrier between teachers and the teaching and research. Remove the barrier between grad and post-grad. Make it applicable. The result of our production as academics, make them applicable. So the other, the opportunities could be, for example, hypothesis number 2, that core problems are not tackled. Okay? For example, corruption is not tackled. And AI, in my opinion, would be a terrific tool against corruption. So government needs help, industries willing to team up, universities are empowering mechanisms, AI, CI are vast toolboxes for problem solving. So my idea and suggestion would be to put all that together. And what would be the expected result? That would be hypothesis number 3, efficacy in society can be jointly built. Okay, so government could be more efficient, industry also delivering social utility, because in our region of the world, perhaps, industry does not care much. Of course, any kind of generalization is bad, but it is fair to say that there is room for improvement in this area. So industry, university could be a hub for the triple helix of innovation. Currently, not that many are involved in that. I will discuss this a little bit towards the end of the presentation. And of course, the techniques are very efficient, okay, and could be the efficacy edge we are necessitating. Finally, how could that be materialized? And then I would like to ask your permission to offer you some examples of things that we are experimenting in our university, and the results are not bad at all. So, number 1, we are trying to find exciting problems for the students to work. Innovative logic for development of the work. And fresh student funding schemes. So it seems like, just to show you how we are doing that. And the objective is for put relevance before excellence. Integration for innovation and externalization of units. This is a word I coined this morning when I was reviewing the presentation, and I think we should not only move on from globalization to internationalization, but from internationalization to externalization. Some universities, they rather go abroad than to the next door, okay? And this is something that perhaps could be different. So Windows is telling me things here. So, but let's go on, carry on. Okay, just a second. Well, so case number one, just to illustrate all that, regarding exciting problems, we had this context, which is undergrad AI courses in computer engineering. They have been taught, as I told you, for over a decade now, and I'm doing this, obviously trying to improve every year, but I decided this time to make it very different, and I would like to report that to you. So, lemmas. Students needed to be further challenged. Combating corruption would be nice. Lab for AI undergrad course. This is something probably very interesting. And the partner, I looked at in a very unusual and unlikely place. I went to the government, International Affairs Office, okay, auditors, and asked what were their problems. First of all, they were very surprised that I was there, because as a university professor, I am normally subject to their actions. They are looking what I'm doing wrong, okay? But this is another story. And then what we tried to do is that the idea was to invite them to the classroom and ask them to accompany the whole semester with the students, telling them what they need, what kind of complex problems they have, okay? And this crazy idea, I'm very lucky to have supportive friends. So my colleague said, go ahead, my dean said, go ahead. And then what we had was 10, these guys, they accepted also, that's an acknowledgement to them, and they accepted this, went to the classroom with the students, and initiated a very interesting collaboration. So we picked up 10 problems they have and tried to ascribe to AI-CI techniques. Those are just very briefly the kind of things we've done. We use neural networks for predicting whether budget goals are not to be met. We use swarm intelligence, sorry, it's not correct there, evolutionary and computation for optimization of the managerial tasks of 70 bodies of the state government. Fuzzy was used for better interfacing with public demands. Decision trees for taxpayers and managers to help provide guidance to them. Local search methods were used for finding misuse of public money. Multi-agent systems for procurement of mandatory data. This is e-government, but this is another story. So Bayesian nets for auto-classification of complaints. So those are examples of what we've done. And this is the classroom, okay? Here you have a virtual divide of the classroom, okay? In which, to the right, you have solution providers, fourth-year students, and to the left, you have domain experts. These guys are actual auditors of the state, okay? And the role of the professor is now a mediator. And I'll tell you that the environment was brilliant. I never thought something to be so exciting, okay? There are other details, but I don't want to bother you so much with that. The second case of innovation, I am very excited to tell you that the ITC environment ecosystem in Pernambuco, my state, is very diverse, rich, and open. So the dilemma is then, industry has plenty of challenges, so government has plenty of demands and opportunities as well. Innovation needs integration of all actors, so why not put together this within the same physical area? So then we are very lucky to have our science and technology state minister as a very competent technician, not a politician. Okay, and then she is revamping what we have there, which is our technological parks. And then UPE, our university, was charged of, I would say, managing the electrical and electronic technological park of our state. And then within the university, we said, why not using that as the place in which innovation could happen? Okay? And then another brilliant idea is to nominate a professor from the university to be the chief scientist of the technological park. Those are small details that, in my opinion, make a big difference. And last but not least, we have written a PhD program proposal that is, if approved, going to run inside this technological park. So you have companies, you have government, and then now we are putting the first, if this is approved, the first PhD program is specifically on in computational intelligence within the technological park. This is our view on, I will not comment everything, but to the right is the state, sorry it's in Portuguese, to the left is the university, the bottom part is industry, and this institute that we are building, it's called Institute of Innovation of the university. The role is to bridge demands and, of course, possibilities offered by the university and link with industry and in this ecosystem. Incidentally, our PhD program is this inclined stamp that would operate between the university, the Innovation Institute, and industry. Well, and as I said, the chief scientist of the technological park, you may know him, is sitting here. So Professor Carmelo Baixas was nominated to be the chief scientist of the park, and I helped to coordinate the PhD proposal. So we are trying to create an ecosystem completely integrated. So very quickly, this is the technological park. It was created in 1996, but revamped last year. This is our technological institute. The building will be finished next year by June, and hopefully will be the hub, bridging industry and academia. This is our PhD program at the moment. As I said, it's a proposal. But the nice thing about it is because we conceived that already in a network. And the point is that this network could grow, okay, very fast. For example, and this is very bad, we don't have that many universities from Latin America, because currently it is very difficult to do business within our own region. Okay, we have just University of Buenos Aires there. But this has, if this is approved, we might have something going on very fast. This is a list of universities subscribing the initial proposal, and I think innovation really requires diversity, especially in this fourth revolution of humankind. Case number 3 and the last one, fresh students funding schemes. We in Brazil at least are very dependent on the state on how to fund initiatives. So the context, this situation is changing. We have to really be very creative. Latins are creative, and we, in Brazil specifically, in these times, we have to be very creative. So, but industry and government have students to offer. Good students are not only in our garden, because this is how we are doing business for decades. We just sit and wait for the students to come. So I suggest that we rethink that. And then we partnered with other institutions. I would like really to mention the brilliant work that Organización de los Estados Americanos, so the American States Organization, they are doing a brilliant job. So they are trying to create programs that, for example, countries like Brazil, Colombia, offer grants for the best students within the continent, and then you can attract them. We've signed this deal in two years ago, and we managed to have lots of students. I'll show some of them now. We also partner with the government, as I mentioned to you briefly, but this is just one initiative, we have others. With local industry, we are trying really to bridge, to visit them. If you do this in your university, congratulations, but it was not our practice. And this is doing lots of good results, producing. The idea then is to fetch good students in industry, fetch good students abroad. For example, in Latin America, this is new for us. Fetch good students within the government. Yes, some of this is good news. Some of the auditors that participated in the experiment, they might join our master's program, which is very interesting because it seems that they like the experiment. So this is one example of such funding scheme. As I see, this student is a master student of mine, okay? And to his left side, you have his boss in industry. To his right side, you have his boss in academia, okay? And then demands comes from industry and solutions from the university. This is doing fine. Of course, we have to be flexible to accommodate how a problem from industry can be solved. So this is, I'm about to finish. This is my team in the US. So in this case, this would be to fetch students, to send students abroad. This is my team in Germany. Again, sending students abroad. And this is my team of Latin American students from that program, signed in 2014. And I'm very happy with them. Okay, so Luis in Honduras, Vanessa from Bolivia, and German from Colombia, for them to go to Europe and live there. So they have to do the masters and come back to their countries. Second task was to force them, literally, to find an interesting problem within their countries. For example, Luis is trying to use evolutionary computation to solve or to offer an alternative dry channel for Panama Canal through Honduras. Vanessa is working on fraud detection in Bolivia because they have lots of oil and the gasoline there is very cheap. The government gives some incentives and people seem, some of them, to be selling the gasoline to Brazil. So it's a strategic project for Bolivia as well. As for German, he has just started. I teased him with the possibility to work with multi-agent system or social simulation to be trying to model the peace deal here in Colombia. The problem is the Colombians did not sign the peace deal, so we have to find another problem for you to help. Well, those are some of the examples I could fetch in our own practice of how this could perhaps be a game changer of using artificial intelligence blending with problems that we have towards the betterment of our countries. As for conclusions, now what? We have lots of things to reconcile. Demands, ideas, brain power. So some of them are positive, others are negative, okay? And then how to do that, how to balance all that. And then luckily, on Tuesday, the Bogota airport was closed. And then Carmelo and myself were locked in for hours. And then we sat, okay, and said, look, I'm doing this presentation, and how about if we think about any framework? And then Carmelo and myself came up with this, that we called the helix RGB of innovation. You know that there is the triple helix, universities, industries, and government. So we went further a little bit and organized all that so that we created levels. For example, main role of universities to provide ideas. The main role of industry in this framework is to demand from us, and the role of the government is to coordinate and regulate. Then the G, resources. We have eventually brain power. It's not exclusive, but industry have money and could try out our ideas, because this is a problem for us, the ones that do not have still an innovation institute. And the government have money as well, but could offer the technological parts and other shared facilities. And as the B, deliverable, what would be the deliverable of university? Innovative solutions from industry, innovative products, because we are not to develop products, and the government perhaps innovate in services. But in the center of this new helix, that would be AI and CI to be in tune with the fourth human revolution. This is what we think right now. Obviously, I have very good friends, and one of them, when I show this to them, I published this on the Facebook page, and then the guy said, a very funny one, they said, why RGB? I said, because it's flashy. Because he was suggesting MRD. Okay, but anyway, it's just to tell you that we might connect to try to solve this quest. So how? By teaming. This is my point. What is preventing conservadorism? This is my opinion. What are possible gaps? Okay, we have to find new methods, new targets, new funding schemes. I just provide you with some examples. Who could be possible partners? I think very definitely in Latin America mainly, we have to knock the door of the government to provoke industry. Let us not to wait for that to happen. And finally, what is the favorable outcomes? More efficiency, better quality of life. Well, these were the past LA CCIs. I would like also, as you probably have perceived, to blend all that with the LA CCI series, because I very much believe that we could do some good on this business of integration within the region, but also locally. And then, why to continue? Because in Cartagena we had lots of success. And then yesterday we already decided the 2018 venue. So it seems that it's going well. So the fourth edition, so please book up yourselves. Is Ivan around? No, he's not. But the dates will be out for next year in Arequipa, and then it's very close to Machu Picchu, so please book yourselves and do participate. And in 2018, by November as well, in Guadalajara, which is now the Silicon Valley of Mexico. Well, to conclude, I would like to tell you, or to recap, some of the important points of the manifesto of this series of conference. First one is to be a notch scientific forum, top-notch in Latin America, to be a regional hub of CI practitioners. So we have to have every year people from this area meeting in our events, to be a privileged showcase of CI to industry, because as I said in the beginning, my observation is that apparently industry has not bought our goods. To be a springboard for students, but not to go to Europe, but a springboard for them to really excel, producing technology for the betterment of their countries. To publicize CI research, okay? To encourage CI links to other LA countries. We have 9 now, so we have to incorporate more. You bear with me, only in Latin America there are 22, so we have room to grow. To foster academic mobility in LA, and to promote science and culture for Latin America. Well, I have some pictures now. This was taken on the first day. So the environment, I must tell you, is very nice. I like very much to be among hermanos. And I'm here with the next organizers. Is Alma here? Okay, they might have to leave, but Alma, she will be the organizer of 2018, and Ivan, by my right side, will be the organizer for next year. And before I wrap this up, I would like to break the protocol and ask a round of applause for Alvaro, who diligently organized this event this year. Please join me. Well, this is the University of São Paulo in Arequipa, where we are going to have LACCI 2017. This is the new logo, and by one suggestion of Ivan, I liked very much, we have a ring of flags, okay? So the one now up to the mission is Peru, the next one coming is Mexico, Colombia is coming out of the stand, Brazil, second edition, but we still have a group of flags on the top that might queue up. So my friends, thank you very much for your attention. Gracias.
2 comments. One is, I think what you mentioned in one of your last slides is about the industry. And one thing that we discussed in Wiki in Vancouver, and we are going to try and improve in Wiki 2018, is to have more industry-related and more financial sponsor from industry, and it's something that we can do from Latin America industry, Latin America companies, in order to increase this relationship between what we can do. Because in Brazil we have those kind of programs from the government that some companies from electricity utilities and petroleum oil companies, that they have to invest 1%, but I don't know if in other companies they do have the same thing. So I think it's something that we can try to improve for the next editions. But one comment that I want to stress is the video that you put, and then you mentioned the 3, let's say, problems. You mentioned, I forgot the first one, but the second one was Latin America, and then Latin Americans. And the video, I think the problem is not how we are, it's how we, all the countries view us. So that is the problem, because that video shows stereotypes that people outside Latin America see us, but it's not how we are, it's not who we are and not how we behave. So it's something that I want to point out, because it's sad when people put in movies and all this kind of, I don't know, not only movies, but everything that show us in another way that is not how we are, it's not how we act. Of course, we have corruption, we have many problems, but it's not something, it's like what happened in the Olympic Games. You see the Zika, some sport, so some players, and they didn't want to come because they are going to get Zika. So there was a kind of photograph that I think was a lady covered all over with like Iron Man, you see, because she was afraid of getting Zika. And of course, nothing happened in the Olympic Games. So I think we should actually try to show us what we are capable of doing and not in that kind of stereotype way. That's a comment.
I think, Mali, the goal of that was not obviously to reach.
No, I know, exactly.
But
to show how we are people view us.
A rebuttal to your comment. The point is that perhaps we are very worried with the image that we are going to project, okay? Whereas this is not the case when you go to other countries. They are not necessarily very worried about how you are going to see them, okay? Perhaps this is a very colonial way of thinking. And I very much agree with you, but I think we have to explore some of the points within that stereotypes. Because, for example, flexibility, okay, it's a very interesting asset, okay?
Oh, it's good.
Being flexible, it is important, and then we are. My point is really to show that there is a problem, okay? If you may, the way people see us or the way you project doesn't matter, but necessarily for we to be conscious of that and perhaps to capitalize on this and all that, okay? But for sure, we can deliver things. You mentioned the the Olympics, okay? We did a brilliant job, and then everybody else was considering that would be a fiasco. And I must say that Olympic Games happened in one of the biggest crises I have ever seen in Brazil. And we managed to do this right, even within the crisis. In a smaller extent, Mali, I had the same experience when I organized with Carmelo BRICS CCI. Because I was very lucky that people accepted my invitation, but when I received one after the other, they thought that it would be a very bad event. I'm very happy that they changed their minds, all of them, because they came to me and said that, okay? But this is something that I really would like to offer to you, okay, as proving facts that we can do that, okay? We can provide. And again, I'm very happy that the World Society is here and is observing this steady growth of our event. I truly believe that next year it will be huge, okay? We are going to really inscribe the name of this series within the calendar of the area, but this is made by us. We have to believe that we can make it, okay? Carmel and myself are with very limited budget, and perhaps would not be the wisest decision to come here, but to go to other places. But we, for example, are betting that this is a good bet, okay? And I really encourage you to think the same way. Be ambassadors of that event. So next year, let's make it really a well-established event. And then just to finalize that, not just to be a very good example to show to other people, but for the sake of it. All the points I've mentioned in the manifesto.
Thank you very much for the talk. I would like to put in the discussion an important point for Latin Americans, that is, we are, one of the additional misconceptions is maybe that we are not too good to work as a team. For instance, in some cases we are abroad, but we work very well with a lot of people. There are a lot of success cases of Latin Americans abroad, working in other research groups, other universities. But when we work in our countries, it's more difficult interact with other person in the same university in fact. So how do you think, I like the suggestion that most of the mobility could be inside the same countries in Latin America, not only US or Europe, but maybe I would like to know your experience because you propose an interesting ecosystem for innovation to motivate the collaboration and teamwork inside the university and other parts. How do you go a little bit about this experience?
Well, there are two parts in your question. The first one is that I agree with you. Okay, I've been a student abroad for long years, and my personal experience is that Brazilians, for example, and other Latin people abroad are very, very competent workaholic.
Oops.
Workaholic, and we do deliver lots of good things. Okay, but we do not seems to trust on that, which is something very weird. Okay, because there's no reason for that. And even the hosts of Latin Americans, okay, with exceptions, of course, but they always reinforce that aspect. As for the second part of your question, yes, but just make sure that I'm not advocating for us not to go too far. I'm just advocating for us to look around first before we go too far, okay, or far away. Because the problem now, it's easier for me to send a student to Europe than to send a student to Argentina, okay? And this is really something not to happen. And finally, the point of how to encourage that, I don't know if it was clear from the presentation, but the idea is that if you work with topics that are relevant, the money shows up, okay? The problem is sometimes in academia, we tend to select what we like, not what society needs. This is the point, okay? And of course, it is basic stuff. Try to join, okay, with people that is really competent, that want to work. Because again, in this social level, we join with people that we like, but not with competent people. You see, it's very similar. And then, I don't know if this explains, but there are many practical issues that you could exercise.
The last intervention, I want to invite you this afternoon. We will have a panel. We invite the point of view of Professor Fernando, the point of view of Professor Cesare, and Professor Gary. It will happen at 6 p.m. here, so I want to invite you to be present.
At
So
6
thank you very
4
much.
p.m.
4:30.
Oh, there is a question.
Just another one and very fast. Professor, thank you for your presentation. The last years I saw how much you are working on the Latin American integration, and here is the perfect space to discuss this kind of topic. I believe, in fact, based on your presentation and something that I saw all my academic life, it's not so a big academic life, just 15 years or something. But there is in Brazil, and I believe that it's some behavior that we can see in the other countries in Latin America, that between the university and industry, we have a gap, or better, we have an abyss. Yes. So, for me, the most difficult part to implement your proposal is to pass through this abyss. What do you think about it? And what is these ways we can to go to solve this problem?
That's a fantastic question, because remember that student that I showed that has two bosses, okay? That happened. I have another one, okay? I do not want to bother you so much with pictures. Last semester, around May, I was concerned with this lack of funding that is growing largely in Brazil now. And then I had an idea. I said, why not inviting companies to come? And then I used my personal network, okay, and sent 6 invitations. 6 companies came for this. I named a micro workshop, and then the international relations office said, no, this is too detrimental, put it mini. Because I said micro, 6 participants, and then the 6 companies arrived. I asked them what they would like to have from us. I presented some options, and then in 2 hours, I managed to have 2 grants. I mean, that one and another one, they started in August, bear with me. I had this in May. In August, I had 2 fully funded students, okay? So, the answer to your question is simple. Be unconventional. Be Latin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.